These lights are very bright. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. I'm Sarah Holloway. I'm on the faculty of SIPA here at Columbia, and I teach social entrepreneurship, and my background is actually in K-12 education, startups, and education equity. So I'm particularly thrilled to be here today to interview Ann Williams Isom, who is CEO of Harlem Children's Zone. You may have seen in the video she was there as COO, but
I was
took
younger.
over.
Did I look younger in the video? No, I look young now. Thank you, thank you.
But you took over as CEO 5 years ago, and really want to talk about Harlem Children's Zone as a model. It's a model for breaking the cycle of poverty. It's a model we heard in the video that President Obama wanted to replicate, but you've stayed actually hyper-local, and would love to hear a little bit about the model and why you've chosen to not scale, but to really focus. So thank you.
Okay, so first of all, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I know that it has been a long day. You guys tired? No. Yeah, you're tired, don't lie. But what I said is you're almost at the end. We have a couple of great people that are coming afterwards, and then you can go hang out on Friday night. So looking at the video actually really made me very excited. When I think about what we're doing, actually not too far from here, right? A mile from here, 97 blocks for Black and brown children that people did not believe could have anything and were able to succeed. And what Jeff Canada, who I love hearing Jeff's voice too, it also inspires me, the importance of mentors and the importance of having people who believe in you and really can serve as apprenticeship for you. What he believed was that we have to do what we would do for any of our kids, what your parents do for anybody here in the audience, which is to give them everything that they need and to give it to them for as long as they need it. And one of the things I think about when I looked at the video was Irvon was on there. And Irvon said that he got accepted to 8 schools, and the summer before he went to college, he got shot. Now, he didn't die, he was fine, he actually still has the bullet in him. And I remember that it was the summer and I was at Martha's Vineyard and I got a call at 5 o'clock in the morning that they were taking him to the emergency room. What would make us think that we could just get this young boy who grew up in the St. Nicholas houses to college and then just leave him at the front door of college? We had to make sure that he got there, we had to make sure that he was successful, we had to make sure he got the counseling that he needed for all the trauma that experienced, and to remind him that what we wanted for him was something different than others would have thought would be possible. So we are really excited about what we're doing, and we believe that right now we have a generation of proof. It's been almost 17 years, almost 20 years of the Harlem Children's Zone. It's no longer an experiment. We know what works. We have a cradle to college to career pipeline, which is actually new now because we feel like we have to get young people really connected to a livable wage if we want to end generational poverty. And we feel like we have to walk hand in hand with these young people, with their parents, and with the community in order to get that done. And the reason we want to be a model is because we want to prove that it can be done, that this is not just some special place and, you know, if you have these factors, then, you know, it's not possible and no one can do it. I said to somebody the other day, we don't want to be like a little porcelain doll up on a shelf where people point to us as like, oh, isn't that a great project over there? We want to prove to people that if you have good leaders, if you have a great board, Richard Whitten is actually here with me today, one of my board members, if you have a good mission that you're looking at, data that you look at to make sure that you're getting to where you need to be, and this belief and this hope, I call it a radical hope, that you really can achieve extraordinary things.
And I want to talk to the data point. So the social sector and philanthropists and foundations are obsessed with data, right? So everyone's talking about data and metrics and social impact. Yeah. And we talk about you as a model. How do you actually know that you're doing a good job? So obviously you can look over the period of 18 years and see progress with individuals, but how do you actually assess yourselves both in terms of your operations, which are massive, and in terms of your outcomes and outputs and impacts?
So we are also obsessed with data, because I really feel like sometimes at a nonprofit, people feel like, oh, I want to go into this work because I love kids. Well, it's nice that you love kids, but I want to make sure that you are doing what you need to be doing and moving them along this trajectory towards success. And the only way that I know that is if I have a clear set of a scorecard about what I think you should be doing, where young people should be at the end of third grade, at the beginning of when they start college, and making sure that we are moving them along those steps. So we have over 600 probably different pieces of milestones that we look at and data that we do. We have a director of evaluation and evaluation department that's probably 10 people, 4 PhDs, and we spend a lot of time looking to see, and not just for funders so that we can raise money, but for ourselves, what's working and what's not working. And what I have found a lot of times is that we'll put something in place and we get so caught up in what we think should be working that we're like, actually those third graders didn't do really well on their third grade test scores. And that's not about what they didn't do, it's about what the adults didn't think was possible. So what more should we be doing to make sure that those third graders are doing well? So for us, we're very obsessed with looking at data and making sure that we're starting a conversation. Like, you'll be surprised if I say to somebody, so how is that after school on 117th Street? How's that program doing? They'll be like, good, Miss Ann, everything is fine. And then I look at the data, everything is not fine, right? 50% of the kids are doing okay, but what's about these other kids? And no, I don't want to hear about where they came from and what they weren't doing. What are you doing to make sure that they're coming to program and that they're getting what they need? So for us, it really is, we look at the specifics of each program, and then there's bigger things that we look at. How many kids are we serving? Last year we served over 13,000 young people and 13,000 adults. That idea of scale, and I didn't actually answer that earlier, we think that scale means that place matters, and that we want to, in those 97 blocks, touch as many of those young people as we can, because we think young people do what their friends do. So if everybody's going to college, everybody's going to go to college, and it won't just be that one kid, Raheem, on 122nd Street that went to college, and oh, Raheem must have been different. No, all of our kids, we want to go to college. And so we want to make sure that adults are not making that choice, but that every child has that shot. And the only way to do that is to say that that's the expectation for everyone, and then to watch and to train your staff and the people that are working with young people to make sure that they're getting there. So that's very important to us.
And my sense is you have such high expectations that you're not just opportunistic. A lot of nonprofits are opportunistic and they go after pots of funding. It sounds like you have been, first of all, you've probably pivoted many, many times.
Yeah.
And today is about startups and social justice startups in particular. Can you talk a little bit about, programs you might have shut down, or how you make decisions around that?
Yeah, I think it's really important. We think about this, again, and I said to it, what's working and what's not, but we think one of the biggest things that can go against a good organization, one of the biggest challenges is their success. So if you're really successful, sometimes that keeps you from wanting to take risk and wanting you to do other things. So for us, innovation becomes very important. So for example, a couple of years ago, we were looking at the young people, and we realized, and we did some research and found out that 45% of them were overweight or obese. And we were like, that doesn't make any sense. We have them from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. They're with us for 11 months out of the year. Maybe there's something we could be doing about this, especially if it's concerned to their long-term health. Everybody looked at us like we were crazy, because they said, you're about education, you're an anti-poverty, why would you be getting into obesity? And we said, we're getting into it because that's what our young people need. Went around, we got, worked with Bridgespan, looked at all the different programs around the nation, really saw what was working, found out that there actually were not a lot of programs that were working at scale. They were working with 400 kids, 500 kids. I said, I need something for thousands of kids. And we were able to put a plan together. We called it Healthy Harlem. We started it about 7 years ago. We got Mathematica to do an evaluation from us. We started with 2,300 young people, went to 4,000, and then added 7,000. And as of last year, there were 7,000 young people in the program and 3,000 adults. And we are really seeing some changes in those rates of obesity based on our focus and our target. But we chose that because we thought that that would be something that would stand in the way of the success of our children.
That's amazing. I just want to step aside for a second and talk a little bit about you. Okay. So
my favorite topic.
You can see in your program Ann's impressive bio. So you have a degree from Columbia Law School. You've spent several decades working in public service for the government, and now you're running what I'm told is a $137 million organization, which is significant.
I have a lot of money to raise every year.
Yes. So you're clearly great at operations, fundraising, getting stuff done, managing a team. So you could go do anything you want. Why have you decided to dedicate your life to this work, and why Harlem Children's Zone?
So can I answer? I'm going to answer that a little differently.
You can answer any way you want.
I think I'm good at operations now, but I don't think I was always good at operations. And that, again, is the importance of coming to an organization that had a phenomenal leader that then took time to mentor me so that I could figure out how does one run an organization with 2,100 employees and all of these kids and make it work. I felt like the little mayor of Harlem. And so how does that work? I feel like in my career, when I left Columbia Law School, I practiced law for 5 years, then I went into government. So I say to people, I did the private sector, I did the public sector, and now I'm at a nonprofit. And my focus has always been about what are the skills that I need to prepare me for whatever is going to be next? And how do I make sure that my toolbox is filled with all of those things that I need so that I'm able to serve? My parents came here from Trinidad and Tobago, so I am the child of immigrants. My mom was one of 14, and her mom died in childbirth when she was born. And so she was raised by nuns in Port of Spain, Trinidad. And now she came to this country in order to, and because she was raised by the nuns, she became a nurse, and she came to this country and was able to get a modest home and then send for my brothers and my father. Then she became a victim of domestic violence. And the only reason that we were not in a homeless shelter somewhere or lost was because of education, because she had a job, and because the nuns at our local Catholic schools held on to us and didn't let anything happen to us. I think I do this work because I think I'm called to do this work. I think it is fulfilling to me. I feel like it helps me to give back, that I know for sure what works, that families can do the best for themselves and their children when they have the resources that they need, not charity, not somebody looking down on them, but a partnership with people who care about what's possible. My mom had the American dream, and I think I really want to make that possible for others.
And yes. Thank you so much.
So can I laugh? My mom lives with me. We live in Harlem. So when I was going out today, she was like, is someone going to record you so that I can hear you? I was like, no, Ma, I could just give you the speech when I come home.
We'll tell her what you said.
Exactly. We'll just make it up.
I think my mic's still on. That's fantastic. I'm trying to see the signal of how many minutes I have left.
Doing?
I'm good.
Because I speak fast. I told you we would get it all in.
So I want to ask a follow-up question, because I have run a nonprofit, not one the size of yours, but it's not an easy job. And you can have all the passion in the world, but it's really a balance, I feel, of putting out fires and constantly raising funds and managing a team who may not be the highest paid and could go do other things too. So what's the thing you love most, and what's, the biggest challenge? Or tell us about your best day.
Oh my God. I actually think that you're right. Nobody could pay us enough money to do this work, but we call ourselves at the Harlem Children's Zone an army of love, because we believe that we are sort of in this foxhole together, doing something that is extraordinary that a lot of people don't think can be done. So that goal drives us. We also feel like we love each other, and that there were people in our lives who saw in us something that many people didn't. And so we want to give that back to the children and families that we serve. I have to tell you, we're pretty joyful, we're happy, we get on each other's nerves, but I think that this idea of being in a place where it's not just about passion, but that we are really focused on doing something different and proving to the country that this is possible really drives us and gives us a lot of hope, and it gives us a lot of energy, and I think we're very supportive of each other. I mean, the thing that we want is and you've seen it on the video, people to come to the Harlem Children's Zone and to learn what we're doing so that we really can take this beyond Harlem. We want millions of children. Right now, there's 15 million children in this country that still live in poverty. That's ridiculous. We feel like we have something that works. We haven't seen a plan B, and so we want to be able to tell that to people, to teach it to people, to invest in leadership. And so for me, my best, every day has something that's crazy in it, tragedies like Irvine, or something that comes up for a young person fell out of one of the windows at St. Nicholas a couple of weeks ago, all kinds of crazy stuff. But I don't focus on that. I focus about where we're going to be and what's going to be possible and what does the future look like for these communities.
That's amazing. One thing I always tell my students who are out, looking for jobs is the people you work with is the most important thing. You can't love what you're doing if you don't love the people you're working with and feel shared values. So
I think
it
that's
sounds
really
like you
true.
really have that there.
Thank you.
I have a sort of long-term question. So in theory, nonprofits are set up to actually solve a problem and then, in theory, close, which we all know doesn't really happen. Do you think you'll ever be done? Do you think you will reach your mission of solving poverty for New Yorkers in this zone, or?
So where's Richard? He's my board member, so I'm supposed to say, I guess we're going to get that done, right, soon. I don't know if it's going to be in my lifetime. I know that, just as I spoke to you about, that there are new challenges that constantly come up. We showed, again, on the video that there were 700 or so young people that were in college at that time. Right now, it's 932 young people in college. And the struggles and the things that are coming up for them and making sure that they don't have a lot of debt, that we're getting them the right internships, right? They don't have moms and dads that are connecting them to the right internships. How do we make sure that we're giving them career exposures? Like, there's so much to get done that I think it's going to take a couple of years to learn this and to get it right. But I'm hoping that my leg of this race will be done, that I will contribute something to this field, and then I'll be able to go to other places around the country and tell the story about what's possible. I know I keep on saying that, but I just think that hope is really needed, and the possibility that something works and that we can do it, instead of people being like, oh, there's nothing that works, there's nothing in this country that's, any good. I want to tell people, no, that's not true, and that if you give folks what they need, they really can do extraordinary things.
So what's missing? So if you could get in a room, and I'm sure you can get in a room with anybody you want, but if you could get in a room with Mayor de Blasio or Governor Cuomo or our current president, you notice I didn't say his name.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do that. By the way, when you're a leader, there's certain things you wouldn't do. Thank you.
But sort of, is it about a policy? Is it about money? Is it, I've been sort of obsessed with numbers, because we all talk about, $100 million, and that's not a lot of money relative to the size of the problem. So if you could wave a magic wand, what would it be?
So I think it's all of the above. And I think that's why it's so important of the work that we're doing. So I would love for policymakers to say and look at us and wow, look at the kids that they've had from when they were 3- and 4-year-olds. And those kids are really doing better. So maybe we should invest more in early childhood programs. I would really love people to look at our Head Start program and say, wow, some of these families are the most vulnerable in this community. And wow, the numbers of foster care admission are really low in these communities. What's going on there, and how can I learn from them? I also agree with you. I had to go somewhere recently and ask somebody for $100 million, and I had to practice in the mirror, and then I looked at myself and I was like, listen, why can't I be bold about what I want? And for these families and children, $100 million is a drop in the bucket in comparison to what we have and what needs to happen. So yes, I think that the idea that I have to raise $80 million a year is ludicrous and probably not sustainable. So how do we get government to pick up more of what's working so that we can do it for more people? I think leadership development is super important. I have my kids right now, and I don't know how many people, like my 17-year-old said to me, I don't really know what I want to do for a living, but what you do looks fun. I was like, okay, thank you, right? As opposed to, like, it's not a big deal. But yeah, I want people to think about doing, and that the best and brightest should go into this work, not just everybody into fields where they feel like, oh, it's not lucrative and all those kind of things. So I think my wand would be about financial sustainability, leadership development, programmatic, practitioners really figuring out what works and how to make that work, and then sharing that, and also the policy implications for this work.
And have there been any actual policy changes as a result of your work? Like, my sense is people look at your model all the time, and there's stuff you know about directly, but I'm assuming indirectly as well, like the pre-K for all, that's actually one of the good examples. One of the things that we had was our day is, and I said it earlier, is from 8 o'clock in the morning to like 6 o'clock in the evening for our parents in our GEMS program, our 3- and 4-year-olds. And what we said was that people need a full day. They're trying to work. And so when you're paying for half a day, that doesn't really do it. So those kind of things we want people to see. And if you have them, we have 20 kids in a classroom and 5 adults to the 20 kids. That's what we think needs to work when 25% of our kids have special needs or are in out-of-home care or live in homeless shelters. And this idea about how much you're paying people to do this work, we want people to see you can't be skimpy. You have to give the workers what they need, the training that they need. And so some of those things, I think, have been modeled in the way that we've thought about what early childhood looks like. How are we doing on time? Perfect. 3 minutes. All right.
3 minutes.
Here's
Dougie
my
Fresh.
last question. So in this room, we have representatives from Columbia and Columbia Engineering, so undergrads, and then we have grad students from multiple schools, from social work, SIPA, business, law, et cetera. And assume the average age is something around 25. So if you were 25 years old and about to graduate from Columbia, what would you spend your time in 2019? One, what would you spend your time on? And like, what does New York City need for people in this room to do? And what does this country and this planet need for them to do?
So how about I don't be 25 and I be my own age, which is 54. And I think the reason that that's important is because I think what I thought I was going to do at 25 is so different than what I'm doing right now. My oldest daughter is 25 years old. She's in law school right now. And a couple of weeks ago, I told her, actually a year ago, I told her that I was thinking about going back to school and that I was thinking about studying, going to divinity school and studying and getting a degree in ministry. And she looked at me, she was like, how many jobs do you think you can have? And I was like, thank you, dream killer. I can have as many as I want. But it was this idea of, I think that I can continue to grow and that I continue to find my passions, and I absolutely feel like I am developing skills or figuring out things about myself that I never knew at 25. So I know people tell you guys to find your passion. I might tell you that sometimes your passion finds you. And so how do you make yourself available to things that you never thought you would be doing? My dream job was not to run a nonprofit. This is not my dream job. I absolutely know that there's something else and more and different that I'm going to be doing later in my life, regardless of what my 25-year-old thinks. And I think that's important. The other thing I want to tell you is that we are so often, and I don't know if this is about being Americans or what, looking for a superstar. Looking for someone who's going to save us. Looking for that other person, I guess, that we could vote for or that we could listen to or that's going to be the person that's going to change anything. And I am telling you that that is inside of you. That there is a light inside of you that the people today need for whatever your unique gifts are. And maybe you don't know what they are yet. Maybe you have an idea. But this idea of finding what those gifts and talents that you have, that you uniquely have, that you need to contribute to this society to make better is what we are waiting for. There is no one person, there's no somebody that's gonna run, there's no preacher or this or whatever. And so I need people to believe that because I think it's really true. So I need you to know that when you let that inner light shine, what you do is you give permission to the people around you to be able to let their light shine, and it makes their path easier to see. I did not realize that I was going to be living in Harlem. You know, my husband and I went to Columbia Law School. He is a partner at a law firm right now. I did not think that I was going to be here giving back and working and being a daily inspiration where I feel like I'm tired every day, but people see, oh, Miss Ann is showing me something different. And I certainly know that my mom, when she X amount of years ago was in the middle of Trinidad and Tobago and was an orphan, was not thinking that her granddaughter would be at Harvard Law School today. I am telling you it is possible, and I'm telling you that we are waiting for you guys to make sure that we keep moving this country in the direction that we need to. So thank you very much.
On that note, thank you so much, Anne. That was awesome and inspirational. Thank you.